it is a constant tension. I think a lot of people, when they think about purpose, they narrate that story in a lot of different ways. Some people will kick the can where it's just like, yeah, someday, like when I retire, I'm gonna go volunteer. When I retire, then I'll be able to give back and live a life of meaning. But for now, I'm just gonna, make as much money as I can, support my family, do whatever, right? Like that's kind of one life experience. Some people take the oath of poverty and say, I'm going to become a teacher, right? Or fill in the blank of whatever, of I want to live a meaningful life right now, a purposeful life right now. And how do I do that? And a lot of times it feels like you're quote unquote sacrificing what the world values to go do the thing that you feel like your heart is telling you to do. And also a lot of times not making a lot of money as results of it, right? Which then creates this tension of, well, am I going to be able to pay my bills next month? And that creates this extra stressor on people, right? And then it can go in 1,000 different directions. Like some people will try and carve out their own path entirely. Some people will be bouncing from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, seeking purpose in, well, if it's not here, then it's in this job. If it's not here, then it's in this relationship. If it's not here, then here. And it's just this constant run, this constant chase, this constant search. I think that tension is there for everyone, but I think our response to it is incredibly different based on how we narrate this story, which to me comes back to personality and for you comes back to story, right? But like looking at how the mind is approaching that, we're going to have some very natural responses where for some people it's run to the next thing. For some people it's just kick the can. Like there's all these different kind of responses that exist there. So it can show up in a lot of different ways. I have this sense of purpose. This is meaningful to me. I'm excited to do this thing. And like it feels good. It feels in alignment. It feels fulfilling. Like there's all of this goodness flowing in the internal world. And then I move out into the outer world and, I have to pay my bills. I need health insurance. Oh, that appliance just broke down. I need a new roof. I'm going to be evicted. Like there's all of these circumstances that exist in our world around us where now it's like, I have this thing here internally and there's all of these things happening that are just feeling like chaos externally. And now I've got to find a way to exist. And that tension is real. And I'm sorry to break it, that tension doesn't go away. The outer world is always going to have problems. There's always going to be something. And like bad sales pitch, but like purpose isn't going to solve that, right? Purpose isn't going to be the thing that all of a sudden takes away the outer world chaos. Purpose isn't going to be the thing that stops the need to be on the phone for 4 hours today battling insurance companies because you need a new insulin pump, right? Like that was my day. It doesn't go away. That's going to be a constant. That's going to exist, and that exists in the world around us. But when we are finding that space that feels purposeful to us, and we're able to operate from that space, it gives us the fuel from the inside out to be able to navigate the things in the outer world in a way that's much healthier. Right? If I didn't have something that felt worth living for, if I didn't have something that brought me alive, that was fulfilling, that was meaningful, like why bother battling the company, trying to prove to them that I'm a type 1 diabetic and I have been for 5 years and that I need a new insulin pump? And by the way, this has been going on for months.
Not the first time. Yeah.
It broke down a few months ago and we're still going through this. Like, why? And again, going back to the questions around the diabetes, it's like, well, why? Why do I have this? Why do I have this? And same thing today. It's a constant. And I think we all have that struggle. We all have that challenge that exists in the world around us. That's just like, oh, what is the point of even trying to work through this? Whether it's something that you're experiencing within your own family, within your own life, within relationships, within your career pathway, with other people, like whatever it is, we have something. And when you look at what that thing is for you, there's going to be times where it just feels like it's going to be easier to raise the white flag and say, I'm so over this. I'm so over this garbage. But the reality is we all have a sense of purpose. It's in every single person. I've worked with hundreds of people over the year, one-on-one, having these conversations, and everyone has a sense of purpose. It exists in everyone. But
Yeah.
sometimes we try and shove it down. Sometimes we try and push it away. Sometimes we just get distracted from it and get off the path of purpose because of all of the distractions in the world around us.
Hmm.
But you've got to be able to find the space in your life to be able to operate from that place that is meaningful, that you are excited to show up for, that creates that sense of meaning and fulfillment, that purpose-driven space in your life that will fuel you from the inside out intrinsically more than anything in the world around you could ever bring to your life. I think it's a hunger that exists within all of us, but I think a lot of us are choosing to try and suppress it. I think a lot of us are choosing to try and ignore it. And I think the first thing is to just slow down and ask yourself, like, are you hungry right now? If you're hungry, you're going to do something to address it. And I think the same thing exists with purpose. Is there a hunger there? Is it something you're looking for? And instead of ignoring it, pretending like, well, maybe if I just pretend like I'm not hungry and I go keep running around doing all these things, that it'll take care of itself, that we actually slow down and try to do something about it. It's there for everyone, but we like to distract ourselves. We like to stay focused on the busyness of the world. We like to try and avoid those quiet, silent moments because, like I said at the beginning of my story, that's when the question started coming up about why am I even diabetic in the first place? And so a lot of times we don't want to be silent. Let me please just scroll through social media and go from the next reel, TikTok, whatever we're watching these days to the next one. Let me please just binge watch TV. Let me just like we're numbing ourselves in the world around us in order to try and solve this inner world problem with these outer world solutions. It's never going to work. And so the first thing that we have to do is slow down and recognize I'm hungry right now. I'm looking for something here right now. I'm trying to figure this piece out and acknowledge that and say, today is the day that I'm going to choose to do something about this. Today is the day that I'm going to choose to explore this thing of purpose. Today is the day that I'm going to ask myself some tough questions about what's my life looking like right now? And is it what I want it to look like right now? Simply put, you've got to go internal and not external. And for a lot of people, it's a scary place. For a
Sure.
lot of people, that's the unknown. For a lot of people, it's the place that we're trying to avoid. And I think that just continues to fuel the fact of why we turn to the outer world to try and solve this inner world desperation that we have. And so you've got to go internally. And there's plenty of ways you could do it. Of course, you can start with journaling. You can write things out. But I mean, going through an experience like story is a powerful way to begin this, right? To be able to slow down and to look at who are you really? And how is your story pointing you in the direction that you're moving in? And is that the direction you want? Or are you going to choose to own your own story and shift directions, right? You can do it by looking at how your mind is wired. You can do it by crafting a purpose statement. There's all these different ways, but you've got to slow down and go internal. And again, there's 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 some ways out there that exist, like you were saying, about cognitive behavioral therapy and things like that, but really slowing down and looking at, is it something that works, right? And I think that we've seen time and time again that something like story works because we're looking at a story of transformation, and now you have the ownership to be able to choose the path that you want to continue to move on. And when we're looking at purpose, that's a big part of what this is about. It's not just processing the past of your story. Where are you going from here? What direction are we going to choose to move in? In your words, what's your aim?
Yeah.
And looking at that sense of direction to give us something forward pulling. But it's pulling, again, from the inside out instead of chasing these external jobs, these roles, these titles, these relationships, these achievements, these hits of dopamine that we're hoping are going to fill up this thing that's missing within us.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, you've got to go internal. You've got to go into the internal world. And because that is so scary, that is the power of having a guide. Yeah, I mean, first, there has to be the wake-up call. There has to be the choice. There has to be the desire to say, this is something that I want. Because I can help anyone find your purpose, articulate your purpose, to put words to your purpose, but just that's a you are here dot on the map, right? That's not going to do anything to create a transformation in your life. We can narrate it. We can point to something. We can say, here it is. But then after that, it is a choice to be able to continue to choose to live in that direction. It has to be an internal desire. If you're saying it's important to find the words because we're telling you right now it's important to find the words, not helpful, because you have to make the choice that this is something that I'm going to choose to work on, to resolve, and choose to live out. Because us just coming in and saying, here's story, here's purpose, we can put words to it, but it's not going to create a transformation in your life. And so if you're someone who's hungry for that transformation and you're choosing to have that wake up call, good. The first step is to narrate your story, to put words to your purpose, because we need to know where the you are here dot is on the map.
Yeah.
But if it's not an internal desire first to create a transformation in your life, and you're just doing it because two random dudes are saying you should do this thing, not going to help you.
No.
It's not. It's a choice that you have to choose to live out every day for the rest of your life. And it has to be something that you're going to choose to wake up to and say, this is the path I want to choose. This is the direction I want to move in. This is the life that I'm looking for. And that internal decision has to occur first. And so once that desire is there, then yes, we can go into the world of crafting your purpose statement, of narrating your story, of putting language to some of these pivotal moments of what's happening in your story to help you see what's going on here. The journey behind the scenes of helping someone craft their purpose statement has quite a bit of parallels with what you do when it comes to story, right? We're collecting stories.
Sure.
When it comes to purpose. We're looking at how your mind is narrating those stories. The same way that I told you my story about the train trip to California, someone else who lived that same exact experience is going to narrate it with completely different meaning. They're going to get fired up and excited about Disney, and I got to go on the roller coasters. I got to meet my fan favorite Mickey Mouse. I got to fill in the blank, right? Whatever it is, that we're going to have a different narration to the stories that we tell because of the meaning that we apply to them from the inside out. Yeah. And so what's important when we're looking at purpose is to create space to honor the way that you actually are narrating those stories. And if you're guiding someone else through the journey, you've got to be able to see your own story enough so you can disconnect from your story, because otherwise you're going to cloud every story that you hear with your own. You're going to be like, oh yeah, me too, I had that. And you're going to take it right to your world, right to your meaning, right to what lit you up about that same similar experience. And guess what? Probably not the same thing for them. But we naturally do that to create connection, which is a powerful thing. To be able to connect with other people, we look for commonality. We say, oh, I went to Disney too as a kid. I loved Mickey Mouse. I loved the rides. Cool. I don't remember any of that. I did it. I don't remember any of it. It wasn't meaningful to me. But people are going to hear that story, and that's what their brain's going to be lit up about, right? So when we're looking at this path to purpose, of putting language to it, when we're looking at stories, you have to be able to create space to honor and to celebrate the way that you're naturally narrating these things, the way that your brain is naturally seeing meaning behind it, and the way that your heart is connected to these experiences that you have. And that's what we're looking for. That's all it is. What I'm looking for someone's purpose statement is we're looking for the way that they're narrating these experiences and the language that they're using around it. And we're pulling those pieces out to look for the patterns, the connections, and the themes to find the entire through line between your entire life. It's there. You don't know it because it's all you've ever known. You can't articulate it because it's this thing that's just, isn't it like this for everyone? It's not, because when I tell my story, I'm fixated on the train. But when someone else tells the exact same story, they're excited about Mickey Mouse. And that's what we're listening for. That's what we're tuning into. And that has the power to now create the direction moving forward into your life. This is where I nerd out on how people's minds are wired. And we all have these default patterns of how we're going to cope with the hard things. And you'll see that in conversations. Like some people will start to get into something that's really deeply meaningful and then completely change the topic. They're like, I don't want to go.
Why
there,
do you
right?
think that is? What is it about meaning and purpose that causes them to shift away?
I mean, both sometimes literally, but also just throwing the word around, like we are addicted to trying to solve our inner world problems with the outer world. And so when we try and break that cycle and go internally, a lot of times people are going to have a little bit of resistance around some of the questions. And it's not a script. It's just me following up on the last thing that you said, right? That's all I'm doing is just digging in a little bit deeper. Well, tell me a little bit more about that. Can't tell you how many times I've asked that, right? Where it's just tell me more.
Million times. Yeah.
Just tell me more about, and it's like, yeah. And then topic change completely. Like, well, let me just jump to this thing over here because I don't want to go too far. I want to solve this thing out here. And so let me tell you about this story about this other person. Or let me tell you about this other thing that happened in my life. Or, ooh, look over here, look over here, look over here. Anytime we start to get close to that space, sometimes there's an avoidance. Sometimes we get fixated where there's like this level of like perfectionistic tendencies that can show up in some people where it's like they won't move on from an example or story because it's like they haven't finished processing it yet. It's like, you don't have to do that work. I just need to hear you to explain it to me. I'm going to help you process through it. But they're like, yeah, but I can't figure that out until I figure that. And they'll kind of get stuck on one thing, right? So some people are like, ooh, let me jump. And other people are like, and they get fixated on this one thing and they can't even move on to the next thing that I'm asking them until it's like, but I still haven't figured out why that's so important to me. You don't have to. You just have to tell me about it, right? Just tell me the story. What actually happened there? And I'll help you guide it out from there, right? For other people, there's a level of deflection of not wanting to see themselves in their own story, where they'll constantly try and narrate the stories of other people, where they're going out and they're talking about, well, my mom did this, and my dad did this, and this teacher did this, and this person did this, and they externalize everything through other people. Where like it's like, are you a character in this story at all that you're telling me?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Are you the narrator? Are you the fly on the wall? Like, what's your role here? What I asked you a story about your life, and you haven't mentioned yourself once, right? And so again, there's these coping mechanisms that come up for people, and then other people, it's the exact opposite, where you don't hear anything about anyone else. And it's hard to even put it in context of anything because it's like there is this like cyclops of them just only being able to see the world through their own point of view, where they're not taking in the perspectives of other people at all, which then makes it hard because they're trying to process through this thing and they can't really see what happened holistically, right? And so like when we're looking at resistance points when it comes to this process, I think it comes back to not being used to going into the inner world, but the ways that shows up behaviorally is going to be different based on what your mind is naturally wired to do to try and avoid that. The biggest thing is it does hit the internal world, and often people will have a visceral response. Like when we land on your true purpose statement, the number of times that people will just break down in tears in that moment, and then they'll be incredibly apologetic. So like, I don't know where this came from. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know what this is. I don't know why I'm crying right now. Like, and then sometimes people are just like stunned where they can't get any words out. Like it is this visceral reaction where your body will often respond in a way where you're like, I don't know what's happening right now. Good. That means we hit something in the inner world, right? That means that we're getting somewhere internally instead of trying to focus on the world around you. Because if you're just humming and hawing, oh yeah, perfect, yeah, we probably didn't hit it because you just took it right to the outer world again. When we get to that core in the inner world experience, there is a transformation that's starting to occur from the inside out. For some people, it's incredibly healing. For some people, it's liberating. For some people, it feels like they're existing in their own body for the very first time, that they can just be themselves, that they feel the sense of alignment. They feel the sense of meaning, the sense of warmth, the sense of peace, the sense of excitement, the sense of joy. Like there's this internalized experience that often comes over people when we really start to get to that inner world core that is just a kind of shocking experience for people. Because all of our lives, we've tried to solve this problem going externally. And you're not going to get the same hit. You're not going to have the same reaction because you're out here. And now we're trying to get you in here. and it often takes people over in a very intense way. And for some people, it hits them a little bit later. For some people, it hits them right in the moment. But often there's a visceral kind of body response to that, to the experience there. It is a wake up call to our inner world. And so often on the pursuit to finding purpose, like we said, it's always about the outer world. We're always chasing this next thing. We're distracted with the noise. We're trying to solve these internalized problems with these outer world things. And when we really start to get to an understanding of purpose, it is internalized in such a way where you're like, whoa, that's me. It's not, purpose isn't something that you go and find. People are searching in the outer world for it. Like, how often do you ask people, like, what's the meaning of life? Like, how can I go out and find my purpose? Like, I just want to go do something purposeful. We externalize it when we use the word. It's not an external thing. It's an internal thing. And a lot of times what people will start to realize is this thing has actually been with me my entire life.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thought for some people, because we've been looking forever to find it. And guess what? It's been there all along. It's been with you since the day you were born. It's not this thing that happened in this traumatic moment. It's not this thing that you're going to go out and stumble upon. You're not going to find it in a job. You're not going to go find it in a relationship. It is within.
Yeah.
And when you hit that, it has this wake-up call in such a way that it starts to shift the way that you see the world. Because now, wait a minute, I've I've been looking out here my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I've been hoping someday I find this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's there the entire time. And now you have the choice of whether or not you're going to choose to continue to see it and to honor it and to live it out each and every day. Or are you going to decide to keep shoving it away and say, that's scary. Let me keep going to the outer world. Let me keep just running around. Let me look for the next hit of dopamine. Let me look for the next thing out here, because this is what I've been doing my entire life. So it's got to still be here, right? It can't talk. That's not it. And you have to make that choice. And that takes courage. It takes courage to choose to say, even though I've been doing this in the outer world my entire life, I'm going to choose to operate from the inside out, to choose to wake up to this thing that's been within me and to operate from this space that's right here.